Good morning, everybody, and welcome to those joining us on the YouTube platform with the London Borough of Newham video section. This is a meeting of the Licensing 2003 Subcommittee. I'm Councillor Neil Wilson. I'm the Council's Chair of Licensing, and I'll be chairing this meeting throughout. Can you hear me still?
Yes, Chair, we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I've got noises coming off as if people are phoning me and all sorts of things. I've got beeps going. I'll just try and persist with this. This meeting will be held remotely and webcast. Although all government restrictions relating to meetings have been removed, the provisions of the Licensing Act 2003, which this subcommittee is meeting under the aegis of, permit this meeting to continue to take place remotely. So thank you very much. If you wish to follow the bundle that we refer to, that's the agenda items, that's under the relevant page of the Newham website. We start off with declarations of interest. This is in accordance with the members, and references to members are the elected councillors sitting this morning, the members' code of conduct. This is the time for us members to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest that they may have in any matter being considered at this meeting, having regard to the guidance attached to the agenda, which is to be found on pages 3 and 4 of our bundle. I have no interest to declare. Councillor Pat Murphy?
No interest, Chair.
Councillor Jacob? Any interest, Suga?
No interest, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, everybody. Now we'll go to the confirmation of the procedure, and that is on page 5 of our bundle. We will do introductions. We then have presentations, and I think we'll do introductions first. So I'm Councillor Neil Wilson. I represent the ward of Plaistow South. Suga? Can you hear me, Suga?
Sorry, I didn't hear. Can you repeat,
Yeah.
please?
Can you introduce yourself with the ward that you represent?
Thank you, Chair. I am Councillor Suga Thekipirail. I am representing East Ham Central Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Murphy.
I'm Councillor Pat Murphy, representing Royal Docks Ward.
And so we are the 3 councillors who will be hearing this, and we are the decision makers today at this administrative hearing. Now, the applicant, responsible authorities and interested parties, I will get to introduce. Who is the case officer today, please?
That's me. I'm Colin Hunt. I'm the London Borough of Newham and the case officer for today.
And from the licensing team?
John Chisdick, licensing officer, and I've made representation on this application.
And from the Metropolitan Police? Have we lost Connell already?
He's on mute at the moment, Chair. We'll see if we can help.
Yeah, I'll ask him to unmute and see if he's unmuted now, Colonel.
Connell, can you introduce yourself, please? I still can't hear him.
He's remuted. I've asked him to unmute.
God.
This is going to take a while.
He's
I'm only
unmuted
asking
now.
him to introduce himself. Connell, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Chair.
Can you stop muting yourself, unless you really have to? I only want you to introduce yourself at this point, Connell, please.
Apologies, Chair. Connell Stoke, Metropolitan Police Licensing.
And I'm afraid carry on a non-video link. Is that correct? Yep. Yep.
Yes, Chair.
Well, he's gone off again, you see. So, so much for my request. Legal advisor, because this is an administrative hearing, we're not legally trained. We have been trained in licensing, but we're not solicitors and barristers. So to help us, Ken, please, our legal advisor, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Ken Foote, legal advisor to the subcommittee.
And I better make clear that agenda item 3 is postponed because of people's being indisposed. But on agenda item 4, I made to make that clear. So item 3 in our agenda pack, which is on page 7 at Sequendum, is deferred. Graham, you put that request in for health reasons, didn't you? So we're going straight over to
I did, Chair.
agenda item 4, correct? Yeah.
Yes, Chair.
So, sorry, could you introduce yourself and the applicant, please?
I can.
Graham,
I'm Graham Hopkins, Chair, GT Licensing Consultants, and to my left is Miss Christina Sabanyu, the applicant.
So what happens is we hear first from the case officer, today represented by Colin Hunt from the licensing team. We would then go into representations from Connell, from the Metropolitan Police licensing team, Connell Stoke, and then the licensing authority, Mr. John Chislett, has also made a representation. Now, to make it clear, we have, sorry, Graham, is that an old hand? You've got a hand up. Graham, there's a hand up. Sorry.
No, it's me,
was I
Chair.
doing
I'm
something wrong and you
scratching the chin.
Right.
Nothing to worry
But there
about.
was a hand up in the screen. Right, it's fine. We're going to have a. It's going to be an interesting morning for technology. I can feel. Anyway, so basically, Colin will introduce. Members can ask questions. So can the representatives on the screen or off screen, and so can the applicant or agent. We then move to the representations, and again the same process. There will be some questions, no doubt, of all of the representations from both us as elected members and the applicant or their agent, and we then have the applicant or their agent making their case. I think we'll stop there because otherwise it's too much to absorb, and we go to page 43 of the bundle, page 43 and 44, which is the licensing new premises application 23 Plashett Grove E6. Colin, to introduce, please.
Thank you, Chair. The members of the licensing subcommittee are here to determine an application for a grant of a new premises license for 23 Plashett Grove E6 1AD, and the applicant is Christina Otinia, and any applications that have been made. An application for a new premises license was received by the licensing authority on the 27th of October 2021. This was advertised at the premises in the local newspaper in accordance with the regulations, and a copy of the application is attached to Appendix A. The applicant is for the following licensable activities: sale of alcohol, off sales only, Monday to Sunday, 9 till 2300 hours, and the opening and closing times are the same. The Metropolitan Police Licensing Team has made representation against the application on the licence and objective of prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance, and a copy of their letter is attached to Appendix B. The Council Licensing Authority, as a responsible authority under the Licensing Act 2003, has made representation against the application on the licence and objective of the prevention of crime and disorder, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. And a copy of their letter is attached to Appendix C. Where the premises lie within the community impact zone, there is a rebuttable presumption that applications for a new premises licence or club certificate or variation in respect of such premises would normally be refused unless the applicant can demonstrate in their operating schedule that there will be no negative impact on one or more licensing objectives. At the hearing, members of the subcommittee would need to be satisfied that the applicant has demonstrated this. The community impact of a premises can only be considered where relevant representations are made. This means that if there are no relevant representations, the application must be granted even if it falls within the CIZ. Members of the subcommittee should know that each application within the CIZ needs to be considered on its own merit, and a blanket refusal cannot be made. Whether licensing authority decides to impose conditions on the licence, whether it's in the CIZ or not, such conditions must be appropriate and proportionate for the promotion of the licensing objective, and conditions should be clear and unequivocal. The Secretary of State has issued guidance to the licensing authority which they must have regard in carrying out the licensing functions. Members of the subcommittee should note that the copies of this guidance are available at the meeting. Alternatively, copies can be obtained directly from the committee clerk. Licensing authority may only depart from the guidance if they have good reason to do so. This premises does fall within the CIZ, and a map of the CIZ is attached to Appendix D. The premises has not had the benefit of a premises licence in the past. However, in September 2015, the licensing team received an application for a new premises licence by the name of MAI Perfect Shop Limited. They did not advertise the application correctly, and the application was rejected. 2 more applications were received by the licensing authority in August 2021 and September 2021 by Miss Elena Christina Sabeniu. Both these applications were also rejected by the licensing team due to non-advertising correctly. A plan of the premises is attached to Appendix E, and a plan of the area is attached to Appendix F. The members of this licensing subcommittee are asked to hear the application, the representation of licence holders, and any valid representation received from responsible authority, and to determine the application. And that concludes the report.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't hear anybody again. I don't know what's happening, guys. Pauline, can you advise? Hello?
I'm sorry, Chair. Your headphones might be faulty or need, if you take your headphones out, maybe. Try and work without the headphones. I don't know how noisy your background is. No, we can't hear you speak.
Yeah, that might be the case, the headphone, because this used to be faulty, I thrown away. And if you straight away hearing from the computer or laptop, it will be better. No,
we can't hear you.
We can't hear you as well. No, Neil, we can see that you're talking, but we can't hear anything. We can only read your lips movement.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That took 3 resets, Pauline. I don't know why we can't have equipment that works, but there we go. That's everybody can hear me say that. There we go. I may have to just use the council laptop microphone, but that's not quite so good. Colin, sorry, I was up to the point where you said that the plan of the premises was attached as Appendix E. Can you just repeat that for me?
Yeah, sure. Just to go back a little bit further than that, just in case this does fall within the CIZ. I've gone through the history. I don't know if you heard the history.
Oh yeah. I just lost it towards the end of plans and maps. I don't know if you said anything further on the update.
Okay, no, not really. The plan is attached to Appendix E. Plan of the premises is attached to Appendix E, and the plan of the area is attached to Appendix F. And obviously, everybody, members of the licensing subcommittee, are asked to hear the application, representations of the licence holder, and any valid representation received from responsible authorities. So it was right at the end, Chair. Anyway.
Thank you very much. Please let me know, anybody, especially Pauline, if nobody can hear me. All right, I'm just worried that this is going to go off again. Sorry. Right. So, are we very clear, Colin, in the ultimate paragraph in history?
Yeah.
It says 2 more applications were received in August and September of last year by the same person who's in front of us today.
Yes, that's correct.
Both applications were also rejected due to non-advertising. For the benefit of those watching and indeed the members, what is the regulations about advertising?
So under the regulation, they have to advertise it in the newspaper within 10 days of submitting the application to the licensing authority, and it has to have the right criteria on it of what the application is in hours, and obviously sale of alcohol, off sales in this particular case, and that has to be in the paper, Newham Recorder, and it has to be a blue notice, has to be outside the premises to be displayed on blue paper 24 hours a day for 28 days.
Was the blue paper notice and the recorder not adhered to?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but what we generally do in these cases, we if one or the other's failing, then we contact the applicant and we tell them one of not failing, they need to do it, and we would put the last day for representation back. So we give them a chance to sort of rectify it, but that on both occasions they failed to do it on a second occasion. So under the Licensing Act, we reject the application.
Thank you very much. Any further questions from members on the report so far? Anything, Pat or
No,
Suga?
Chair.
I just sorry, go on.
Sorry, Pat, anything at this point?
No, Chair. Thank you.
Suga? Councillor Suga, did you have a question?
Then
He's
my question is that whether the meaningful effort have been taken place to educate the applicant, because I can see that the applicant is genuinely unaware about the things.
Yeah.
To put the application right way. Thank you.
Yeah. So they, but can you advise on this? It's not necessarily germane to the case, but it's just a background history. Did you advise your client, and that was how it was proceeded to us, Graham? I think that's the gist of it, really.
No. Oh, sorry. Oh.
Sorry.
No, Graham wasn't involved in the two first applications. I think that's what you would say, Graham, wasn't it? But obviously, yes. I was speaking to the applicant on a regular basis regarding the two applications, and I did suggest that after the second one, she didn't quite understand the process, which is not uncommon for new applicants. So I advised them.
I think that's where. Yeah, I think that's where Councillor Suga's coming from.
Yeah, I advised them if they wanted to apply for another licence or third occasions, they would be best if they seek legal advice, because otherwise they're just wasting money.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much. Now, can we have the location map, please, and the CIZ map on the screen? Sure. We have people watching us, and I'm trying to get this as.
Yeah, just give me a sec.
We're in the Plashett Grove and we're in the CIZ, so if we can have both of those. I know it's in our bundle, but it's to help people who are watching.
Can you see that?
Thank
you. That's the location map.
Which is on Appendix F of our bundle, page 75. Just while you've got that on there, Colin, are we able to zoom into pictures?
Yep.
We have a wee picture of it.
Oh, sorry, I've gone the wrong way. So there's the there's the location. It's right on the corner of Washington and the Plashett Grove. It's right on the corner. I've got pictures.
Yeah. Could we just have some pictures?
There's the picture there. So that is going. So there it is. There's Washington. If you go this way, that's going to Green Street and the junction. That heavy junction.
Yeah.
Can everyone see that?
So you're not far from the Green Street turning, and that view is on the way to East Ham. That's towards Plashett Park and towards
that's
Plashett
correct.
School.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody all right with that? Yep. Now, can we have the next one then, which is the CIZ one?
The CIZ is there's your CIZ map, and there's the pin where the applicant shop is. So it's within the CIZ area.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So with no further questions, then we turn to the first representation, which is made on behalf of the Metropolitan Police Licensing Team. This is to be found at Appendix B, page 65 at Sequendum. And again, it's Connell, who's, I'm afraid, on a telephone link because of technology problems. Connell, please. Connell Stoke.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, I wish to object to a new application for a premises licence for Christid Altenia Limited, 23 Plashett Grove, E6 1AD, on the grounds of the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. You've heard the hours for licensable activities and the opening hours. Premises are situated within the cumulative impact zone as set out in the Licensing Policy 2020. That means there is a requirement for the applicant to comprehensively demonstrate there will be no additional negative impact on the vicinity in terms of the 4 licensing objectives. It also states that in completing the operating schedule, applicants are expected to have regard to the statement of licensing policy for their area. they must be aware of the expectations of the licensing authority and responsible authorities as to the steps that are appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. This is usually done through the applicant submitting a comprehensive and robust set of proposed conditions in the operating schedule. Before commenting on the conditions set out in the operating schedule, I'd like to set out the narrative history of Ms. Sabanyu's attempt to apply for a license. You've heard already, she made 2 previous applications in August and September last year that police would have objected to had they not been rejected by the local council if they had run their full course. This is because they contain little or no information in the operating schedule to indicate that she was aware of the premises being situated within the CIZ or issues in the area, or that she was aware of her responsibilities to promote the 4 licensing objectives. In mitigation, she completed the form herself without the assistance of an agent or solicitor. As you've heard, she has now employed Mr. Hopkins to represent her, and he has submitted a comprehensive and robust set of conditions on her behalf. The problem for police and the other responsible authorities in these circumstances is twofold. Firstly, to establish whether the applicant's seen the application prior to its submission, and secondly, whether they understand the reasons why the conditions that have been proposed on their behalf are necessary to promote the 4 licensing objectives. I visited the shop on Monday, the 8th of November, with John Chislett, Newham Council licensing officer, and spoke to the applicant. She explained that her English was not very good, but even allowing for language difficulties in response to questions, she clearly had not seen the application form and was not aware of the conditions set out in the document. To her credit, she was honest and admitted that she didn't know what the CIZ was. This is of considerable concern to police, as crime statistics are specific to an area within a quarter-of-a-mile radius of the postcode and are submitted with this application to provide a context within which the applicant will be operating if the licence is granted are consistently relatively high. The figures are, the last figure is 30 in September, 33 in August and 30 in July. Apologies, Chair, I haven't got access to my council computer, so I haven't been able to update that this morning. The statistics for incidents of violence, 18 in September, 29 in August and 26 in July. It should be stated that none of these incidents are linked to the premises. A check on Company's House for Christid Altinia Limited shows that the applicant, who is the sole director of the company, notified them that the registered address for the company changed on the 1st of March 2019 to the address of the shop. Therefore, it is not unreasonable to expect her to be aware of the existing problems in the area, as the premises has been registered, as the company has been registered there for a couple of years. Police would like the applicant to attend the licensing subcommittee hearing in order to demonstrate that she understands why the area has been designated as a CIZ, why a comprehensive and robust set of conditions are necessary to promote the 4 licensing objectives, and that there will be no negative impact on the vicinity in terms of the 4 licensing objectives if the licence is granted. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Right, just to reiterate, and it's not a pedantic point, Connell, that in your last paragraph it is the designation as a CIZ, and it links with my other question. It's about that there'd be no additional negative impact. Sorry, I just wanted to correct you. You left out the additional negative impact.
Oh,
you visited,
yes, that's correct, yeah.
You visited it, the second paragraph down on page 66 of our bundle. You visited a shop with John Chislett, and we'll hear from him subsequently in this hearing. So as recently as November.
Yes, yeah.
And you've stated on record that the application, that she had clearly not even seen the application form or the conditions set out and didn't even know what a CIZ was. Is that what you stand by on that?
Yes, we did. We asked her directly whether she'd seen the application form. She said no, and asked her a basic question about the CIZ. And John, I think, asked her additional questions as well. But she didn't know. There was the language difficulty, but even allowing for that, she didn't seem to have much idea. And as I say, to her credit, she was honest in admitting that she didn't know what CIZ was.
Just on the crime statistics, and I'll hand over to my colleagues. The crime statistics, as you say, we're awaiting, but even though there was, lockdowns and we're in the middle of a global pandemic, we are looking at incidents of antisocial behaviour in this area of roughly one a month, correct?
Yes, that's right. So that's 3 months, consecutive 3 months.
One a day.
Yeah.
Sorry, one per day.
One a
Yes.
day, yeah,
Yes,
for 3
sorry.
months. Yeah.
I'm correcting myself now. And violence is about the same. It is a very high crime rated area in national terms. Would you agree or not?
Yes, I would. Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Murphy. Questions to Connell, please? Any?
No questions, Chair.
Councillor Suga, any questions to the police?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
My question is that, thank you, appreciate your report. And I just want to know that how many licensed activities taking quite near to these premises? I mean, the already operating licensable activities.
It's a fair question, Suga, but it's actually directed, I think, at the case officer. It's a good question. Sorry, we should have brought that up under case officer, but we'll take it now. Colin, do you have any information of surrounding areas with people with licenses? Can you get back to us during the hearing?
No, yes, Chair, I've got it in front of me now.
All right, yeah, go on.
So from Plashett Grove, we've got number 12. It's a chicken shop. There's a few chicken shops down there. License, there's 64 Plashett. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Within that sector, there's about 5 licensed premises. There's a 1, 2, 3 off licenses. 2. I'll just check that. There's 2 definitely chicken shops or fast food takeaways. Number 12 and number 14. Let me just check. If it works. So we've got a retail sale of alcohol, number 59 Plashett Grove, 10 o'clock till 2100 hours, retail sale of alcohol off the premises. That's that one. We've got 74, which is, that's retail alcohol 8 till 0200 hours. And we've got 87 Plashett Grove, which is retail sale of alcohol 7 till 2300 hours. So all in all, we've got two chicken, like fast food restaurants, and 3 sale of alcohols, off licenses, basically, in Plashett Grove.
Yeah. So back to the police. Suga, do you want to carry on your questions to the police officer?
Yes, yes, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to ask questions. Officer, my question is that the intention of my question is that how can you prove that you have mentioned quite few shops quite near to this shop, and then how can you prove that this is going to be an additional burden and comparing to the existing one posing to the cumulative impact you saw?
We can't prove it, but what we're saying really, we're mentioning the crime antisocial behaviour figures to put it in context within which, if it's granted, this licensee will be operating, and it is already an area where there are reasonably high levels of antisocial behaviour, and another source of alcohol in that area potentially could lead to higher rates of antisocial behaviour, which is why we are asking, really, the basis of our representation is for the applicant to prove that they understand the licensing laws and they can operate the premises in a responsible way.
Ken, you wish to come in at this point?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just on that question, it's not for the representative authorities to prove that there will be additional negative impact. As you're aware, there's a rebuttable presumption. So it's presumed that there will be additional negative impact, and it's for the applicant to counter that. that presumption.
Is that okay, Suga? Yep. Yep.
That's fine. Kenny's pointed the right things.
No, but you know, but we all need to be clear. This is the very reason we have, you know, a legal advisor here. So I just have one more for Connell. Pat, you don't have any more for Connell, no? For the Met Police. Connell, on the you made references to Company's House. And is it your understanding that the from that search, that the applicant, who is the sole director of this company that's on the resubmitted application, is actually been there since 2019?
Yes,
would therefore be aware of the issues that you've highlighted.
Yeah, the registered address was changed on 1st of March 2019. So if she's been operating since that time, then it's reasonable to expect her to be aware of the problems in the area.
Thanks
I
very
believe
much.
she lives quite nearby as well.
Well,
sorry, I
we'll
don't know
check that
exactly
out.
where, but
We'll check that out when we interview the applicant. But thanks. Yeah. Yep. Shall we move on? Is that okay, Ken? Are we all right to move to the next representation members and our legal advisor? Graham, no. You have questions of Connell, do you? At this point?
Yes, Chair. Just one of clarity, if I may.
That's fine. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Connell has mentioned. Connell, you've mentioned 5 other premises. Sorry, I think it was Colin actually mentioned it.
Yeah.
5 other premises that have licenses in Plashet Grove. Would you accept that 2 of those, bearing in mind this shop will be closing if the license is granted at 11 o'clock, would you accept that 2 of those premises are not really relevant as they're late night takeaways and they're not licensed until 11 o'clock at night?
yes,
so there's no competition.
Certainly, yeah.
Thank you.
The relevant ones are the off licenses.
Yeah, that's background information. But you know, we try to be fair, and we just you know, it's best for us to have an exhaustive set of issues to look at rather than being presumptive. Graham, yes? Thank you. So shall we move on then to John Chislett from the licensing team, who's also put an objection in, and that's to be found on Appendix C of our bundle, page 67 at Sequendum. John, to introduce, please.
Thank you, Chair. As we've already heard, that this application already falls within the community of impact zone, and it is down to the applicant to rebut that presumption for refusal. The licensing enforcement team are lately seen an increased number of new licence applications that have been submitted by the applicant's agents.
Sorry to interrupt, John. I know you're trying to, you know, be helpful, but I think you haven't read out your first and second paragraph.
No, I'm just trying to save time, Chair.
I think the second paragraph needs to be on public record.
No problem. In that case,
I'm very directional, Suga. You see, I tell people how we conduct everything. Right,
Chair, in that case, I will read the letter out word for word then.
Thank you.
So the council's licensing team, as a responsible authority, would like to make representation against this application for the grant of a new premises licence for the shop located at 23 Plashet Grove E6 on the grounds of the prevention of crime disorder, the prevention of public nuisance and the protection of children from harm. This is a new application and all applications must be considered on its own merits. This premises falls within the council's community of impact zone, CIZ, and the applicant needs to demonstrate that opening a premises within a stress area that is notorious for street drinkers and ASB nuisance day and night will not affect the area negatively and increase the issues that surround this part of the borough, and the application should be refused if this cannot be achieved. The licensing enforcement team have lately seen an increased number of new licence applications that have been submitted by applicants' agents with an array of conditions attached to the operating schedule to promote the 4 licensing objectives. These applications have either come before the licensing subcommittee or the applications have been uncontested and the licence has been granted. Following the grant of the licence, sometime later, the licensing enforcement team has carried out test purchases and/or routine licensing visits, and the premises licence holder, DPS or employees are selling and/or displaying alcohol outside the authorisation of the licence and have no knowledge of the conditions which could lead to offences under Section 136, 137 and 146 of the Licensing Act 2003. When the premises licence holder, DPS, have been interviewed under caution for the offences, the majority seem to have no or little understanding of the conditions that their agent or solicitors apply to the licence by the operating schedule and unable to explain why they fail to comply with the conditions that they need to do so and to comply with conditions in the future. This application has been submitted by Mr. Graham Hopkins, a specialist licensing agent, and while the licensing authority is grateful that the application has conditions attached that will discourage street drinkers. Although each application is taken on its own merits, the licensing authority is aware that the applicant has submitted 2 previous applications in which there were objections to, and the past application had little or no conditions attached. The licensing authority has concerns that if Ms. Sibaru is fully aware of the proposed conditions, understands the proposed conditions, and understands what is meant by the community of impact zone. As we've already heard from Mr. Stowe, him and myself visited the premises on Monday the 8th of November and spoke to the applicant. She only understood a little English, and when asked about the application and proposed conditions that had been submitted, she looked very blank and confused. She was asked if she knew what the community of impact zone was, and she replied she didn't know. And when asked if a licence was granted, would you sell beers and lagers as a single item or in quantities of 1, 2, 3 or 4, she replied ones, of course, single. Following the visit, it would appear that the applicant is unaware of the proposed conditions that have been submitted, and if a licence was granted, if the applicant would be able to challenge people wishing to purchase alcohol in breach of licence conditions. The licensing authority receives regular complaints about ASB and nuisance concerning premises and patrons, frequently this part of the Plashet Grove. And should a new licence be granted, the licensing authority believes that with the applicant's limited English and lack of understanding of the proposed conditions, that the grant of a new premises licence will undermine one or more of the licensing objectives. The licensing authority would like the applicant to demonstrate to the licensing subcommittee that they fully understand the proposed conditions and to rebut the CIZ policy in refusal of the grant of a new premises licence. And that concludes my representation.
Thank you, John. Sorry to be laborious about this, but there was a section there, you see, where you have had to visit with Connell. I don't want to go over that one, but you said in the second paragraph that this is an area that's notorious with street drinkers and ASB nuisance day and night. I've lived in Newham 40 years, and we've got people on the call who are very experienced living in the area of Newham and its stresses. This is particularly stressful, I know. In your experience as a, can you hear me all right?
Yes,
it keeps saying my default microphone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry, I don't know what, it keeps flashing up, but my microphone's gone off. In your experience, you know, how many visits have you made along Plashet Grove? Or on Green Street?
I made quite a few visits in that area, especially when complaints have come in regarding licensed premises down there. There's also other venues that have been operating without a licence after 11 o'clock and even before 11 o'clock that have been causing problems down there.
And why would you specifically ask Miss Sabaniu, I hope I'm pronouncing the applicant's name right, about the single cans?
Because in the operating schedule on page 55 of the agenda pack, at the bottom of box B that's marked up as the prevention of crime disorder, the very last line states that a minimum of 4 cans or bottles of beer, lager, stout or cider may be sold in a single transaction. So obviously if the applicant was aware of the conditions that Mr. Hopkins had put in the operating schedule, when asked that question about selling beers and lagers as a single item, the reply I would have been looking for was no, it would be multiples or quantities of 4. But the reply was a single, of course.
Sure. And just on a legal point, Ken, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you just, because we do have people watching, and I'd say the same if we're in the tunnel. We don't have to adjourn for this, but section 136, 137, and 146 of the Act.
Well, 136 is carrying out unauthorized licensable activities. 137 is exposing alcohol for unauthorized sale. When we talk about authorization, we mean the license. And 146 is selling to underage customers.
Yeah. So you stand by your contention, John, that the applicant, and it is a rebuttable presumption because it's a CIZ, but you're saying that in spite of anything to do with language difficulties, there'd be an issue for you still under what's in front of us on the license.
That's correct, because as I say, from the visit that Connell and myself made on the 8th of November, the applicant didn't seem to be aware of the conditions that were in the operating schedule.
Right. Councillor Murphy, anything?
No, Chair.
Councillor Sugar?
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. Graham, do you have any questions of the licensing officer?
No, Chair, thank you.
Right, we're making good progress. Thanks very much, everybody. So we move then to the applicant and their agent. And remember, we tend to be more interactive, Graham. So, we may interrupt and all the rest. So, yeah. We don't have soliloquies, not even from the chair.
Thank you. As you've heard, Mr. Banyu, the operator of the shop, applicant and proposed EPS is with me today. She prefers to be called Christina. She doesn't use her first name. Chair, I would like to advise you, obviously, you've heard comment on Mr. Banyu's English. I've had conversations with her today, last week, and on previous occasions, and we've been able to communicate clearly. And I've been able to communicate clearly with her during the application procedure. But it's not her first language, and I would just ask you to bear that in mind when it's question time, that just give her a little bit extra time to clarify what you're asking her and her answer. But speaking to her, her English is good, better than I would suggest any of us can speak Romanian. I would like to clarify that the police and licensing officer have mentioned the previous applications last year rejected due to a failure to advertise correctly. I think it was Mr. Hunt or maybe Mr. Chislett. I think it was Mr. Chislett made it clear, of course, there's no suggestion or evidence of any wrongdoing by our client in connection with the application. She made a genuine mistake, didn't realise she had to get the newspaper advert in time. This time, everything was done according to the rules, as you've seen in the papers. It was advertised correctly, so hence we're here today. She did decide to take the officer's advice and sought professional advice. And she has now offered, to address the point made by Connell and Mr. Chislett, she has now offered a full list of robust conditions that will ensure, in my opinion, and I have to persuade you of that the licence objectives are fully promoted, and that a shop, if the licence is granted today, will not cause an increase in negative cumulative impact. This address, I think this addresses the points made by Connell in the police representation and by Mr. Chislett in his representation that inadequate conditions were offered. I think this time you'll see there's more than a few. Our client has also produced a CIZ statement to address the issues which I did discuss with her and why we consider the application can be granted because of the hours requested and the measures she's proposing as conditions. To address another point, if I may, made in the representation, Mrs. Banyu did receive a further training session from us last week, and I was quite pleased with the outcome of that. She came down to us as she has today. But I can also tell the panel that if you are minded to grant the licence today, there will be a further training session at the shop for Mr. Sabanu, but also because one of the conditions we're proposing is that we will be responsible for the training of the staff in the coming year. So there'll be a full session for the staff as well, so that we can all be satisfied that the conditions will be complied with and fully understood as to why they're on the licence if it's granted. Now, Chair, this is a Romanian and East European convenience stores selling a full range of foodstuffs, groceries, etc. from Romania and Eastern Europe. Mr. Sabanu wishes to offer a range of beers, wines and spirits to enhance her business offer to her customers and to enable Christid Oltenia to operate as a one-stop shop. Common practice these days, people want to go to one premises, buy their groceries, their foodstuffs. If they want a few cans of beer to take home or a bottle of wine, to buy them all in the one place. The requested permitted hours, as you will have seen, Chair, for off sales and the opening hours are the same. We thought that was appropriate and sensible to do it that way from 9 till 11, which I would suggest you are within, especially at night time, within the traditional off licence hours and not excessive. We didn't want the shop to run into the nighttime economy, hence the 11 o'clock finish. And we didn't want to be selling alcohol at 7 o'clock. We thought that was irresponsible, and you've got children passing by. We didn't, Mr. Sabanu didn't want the shop to be a magnet for all the street drinkers and alcohol dependent people zooming to the shop to buy an early drink. So that's why we've chosen 9 till 11. And nor did we want to be open when all the people are coming out of pubs and the clubs in Stratford or in London. The conditions offered includes those I would suggest that you would expect to see based on Newham's pool of conditions. You've got CCTV, Challenge 25, notices, including to address the PSPO and the CIZ, deter people drinking outside, proper staff training and refresher training, which, as I've said, we will provide for the first year. After that, we will be providing the mentoring service that we do to clients. If they've got any questions, we'll be here to answer Ms. Sabanu's points and her staff's points. We've also got measures specifically, as you will have wanted to see, to address street drinkers and alcohol dependent people, and the ASB that's been mentioned by the police, which obviously we're aware of. Minimum sale of 4 bottles or cans of beer, lager, cider and stouts, 6% ABV for those. Minimum 35 CL bottles of spirits, bottle marking, probably quite important when dealing with the street drinkers as to where they may be buying their alcohol from. The requirement staff to monitor the outside. Ms. Sabanu is going to put a camera outside in line with what we've offered for the CCTV. So she's going to install that if the licence is granted. So they've got additional coverage as well as seeing through the window, because there is a side area to the shop. And notices asking people to not drink outside because of the public spaces protection order. Staff required to engage politely with members of the public who do that and ask them to leave the shop frontage and area. As I said, I've covered the staff training and that we will be doing that. I can tell the panel that this is Ms. Sabanu's first shop, but she's actually owned and run it since March 2018. She did work there before, so she's got 4 or 5 years experience of working in retail, which is good to see and responsible. She does live locally, as I think Connell said. I won't reveal her address, obviously, but she's lived in that area for some time, and as a resident wants to see the area prosper, as all residents do. She is aware of the issues arising in the area. She's seen the street drinkers, she's seen the people begging, etc., etc. And she's also held a personal licence since September 21. Moving to the representations quickly, Chair. There's no representation against Mr. Sabanu's application from any local resident or business. So the very people we would say most likely to be affected by a badly run shop or issues arising from its operation don't believe or are not moved to believe there will be any, and have not been sufficient concern to make an objection or a representation. It's good to see, given that she has been trading at that premises for the last 3 years, that it's not caused any problems or issues. You've heard from both the police and Mr. Chislett, any issues they've mentioned are not linked to this premises. Turning to the police representation, I can tell you that with the conditions were sent to our client to agree before submission, and I think you will have gathered that she was rather nervous and a bit maybe flustered when the officers turned up. It was unexpected. She wasn't expecting them. I know that, I mean, you and I know they have to go, but she wasn't expecting them. And to be fair, I think she didn't fully understand what was being asked in that frame of mind. But she does. We've gone through the conditions. We've gone through the CIZ, the PSPO, and her obligations, the problems in the area in depth. We were together for 2.5 hours last week and went through everything that the police and Mr. Chislett have mentioned. We have noted, obviously, and carefully, the antisocial behaviour and violence statistics provided by the police and their concerns on these. But I reiterate what I've said. Both officers have said the incidents and offences do not relate to Miss Sabanyu's premises. Taking into account the sensible hours requested, the robust conditions offered, I suggest that Christy Altenia will not add to the levels of ASB and violence mentioned by the police. You will, of course, Chair, be able to determine our client's understanding of the CIZ and the objectives, the conditions offered, etc., during your questions. Excuse me. I personally consider that she did and does understand after our session last week the points I've mentioned, the CIZ, the objectives, etc. Oh, I'm sorry, I've just lost my place, which is very clever. If our training session, after our training session with her, I will ask you to remember that before she sells alcohol, if you're minded to grant this license today, we will be giving her a further full training session by way of a refresher, but we will also be training her staff from basic and supporting her in doing that at that time and on an ongoing basis. But we will be doing all of the training for the next year. If I may say, Chair, that subject to satisfactory answers to members' questions today, I submit that the issues raised by the police and licensing will have been addressed. I don't propose to, no disrespect to Mr. Chislett, to go through everything again in respect of his representation. They are similar, and I would say that with Ms. Sabanyu's improved and enforced knowledge that she will be a responsible operator. There's no reason to suggest before you today to suggest otherwise. She will uphold the licensing objectives, the provisions of the legislation, her terms and conditions, and will not add to problems in the CIZ. As I say, you will determine that after asking her questions. But I would urge you strongly to give her a chance today to develop her business, to maintain her business, and especially in these still difficult times, to grant the license. In closing, we've got moderate hours, robust conditions, a responsible operator, and ongoing training and mentoring. So that's my submission today, Chair, unless I can help you further.
Just one point of clarity, if I may, before I start asking your applicant questions. You referred to the PSPO. I do the same at school governors. We're on public record to try and make our meetings accessible. Are you referring to a public protection order, whatever it's called?
Public Spaces Protection Order, Chair. Yes, I am. The borough-wide one.
Exactly. We have just, I think that's gone through Cabinet with executive powers. Is that germane to the argument, or is it just a background factor? Public sector protection.
Well, I suppose it's relevant in that it shows that there is a problem, particularly in that area. But I think the main thing is really just to concentrate on the licensing objectives and whether the presumption has been rebutted.
Right.
And I presume that will be found out shortly.
Yeah, thanks very much. So, Christina, can you hear me all right?
Hello. Yeah.
Sorry, I keep checking because my microphone and everything keeps playing up. So I want to be fair to all parties. How long have you had the, I presume you're a leaseholder, is that correct?
Yes.
How long have you had the lease of this shop?
No, sorry, I don't have the lease. I have just contract.
Sorry?
I don't have the lease.
No, are you a leaseholder? You have a lease and you pay to a monthly rent to the landlord?
Yeah, I pay monthly rent. but I don't have lease. I don't.
Right, Chair, what Mrs. Sabanu is saying is that she has a license to occupy the premises from the landlord and pays a monthly rent.
Yes, so she's got a lease.
In effect, yes, in inverted commas, yes.
Right.
She has the right to occupy.
Right to occupy. I'm with you. Fine. How long have you, whatever the legal status in terms of contractual obligations to your landlord, how long have you been at this premises? Is it correct that it's since March 2018?
Yes.
So that's a period of 4 years coming up this in March.
Yeah.
And we don't need to, because you're on public record, we do have protection under GDPR. You live locally. Yeah. So
Yes.
if I were to ask you, is where you live, you are aware because you live locally on the issues of both Pleshett Grove and Green Street?
Yeah.
What would you describe as the main problems that have been referred to so far in this hearing?
Problem?
Yes.
In my area?
Yeah.
I didn't see too much problem because I don't know, just accidents, and I didn't see too much problem. Like, what kind of problem? I don't understand the question.
No, it's not for me to give you answers. I'm asking you the questions. We've been assured by your agent that you live locally.
Yes.
We are looking at an application, and you've had these premises, whatever the legal status, you have your contractual obligation with the landlord since March 2018. Yeah. I have Romanian stores at the end of my road. We are one of the most diverse areas of we claim in the world. So whether it's a Romanian store or a person from Southeast Asian in terms of Pakistan or Bangladesh, they're all along my road in the Barking Road. So the diversity is one thing, but we want to establish what you know about the problems. I've got problems at the end of my road. So do you walk to your shop?
Yes.
And what do you see on walking to the shop?
Street drinking.
You do see street drinking?
Yeah.
So are you aware of why we put a regulation in for 4 cans? What is that for? Why would we put a regulation? Because your agent said that you were slightly surprised by this visit, and you said you'd sell obviously 1 single can. Why would we want to put a condition in that people have to buy a minimum of 4?
Because of the homeless, for example, they can buy 4 cans. No.
Right, I'm going to hand over to Councillor Murphy. Councillor Murphy, oh, sorry, I've got the doorbell going now, everybody. Can we just pause? I'm sorry, this is the trouble working from home. Could we all...
Yeah.
Street thinking.
Just to remind you, we're still live, so be cautious of anything you say.
Got it?
Can you all hear me again?
Sorry, Chair, I've just lost.
No.
Sugar is in the Zoom, but his camera's gone off. Oh, he's back. It's all right.
Can you hear me, Pauline? Because I'm having great difficulty. And what with
yes, I can hear you.
Or whatever it's called, delivering a huge parcel for my flat housemate. I don't know what all that's about. I hope I don't keep getting these interruptions. Now, I was asking, I think, Councillor Murphy to take over on some of the questioning, so we can. It's not just me, Christina. All 3 of us, the elected councillors, can ask questions of you. You see, and that's what we want to do to establish that you know what the issues are. Councillor Murphy, over to you, please.
Yeah, well, I think we know that it's vital, because whilst the agent can advise and help the application, the agent won't be by your side every day of the week when the shop's open. So what is obviously vital is that you understand the rules and regulations. And the two that spring to mind naturally are Do you know what a CIZ stands for and what it means?
Yeah.
What is it then?
Drinking on the street.
What does CIZ stand for?
Stand for.
Yeah. What are the letters? The letters are CIZ. They stand for something.
Oh yeah, community impact zone.
Yeah. And what do you think that means to you, your shop?
The big problem for this is drinking on the street.
Yeah.
So
what would you do if you had somebody come in who'd had too much to drink?
I refuse to sell the alcohol.
Right.
If
and have you got
already,
sorry?
If he's already drunk, I refuse
Yeah.
to sell the alcohol.
And have you got a refusals book?
Yeah.
You have. Right. And do you know what the 4 licensing objectives are?
Yeah. Prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and protection of children from harm.
Right. Okay. I think we're getting there. I think the big question for us is if you can go into some detail about what you think would mean that if you were given a license, things wouldn't be made worse in that area, although it's a given that none of these incidents that have been reported are related to your premises. But if you can be robust about what sorts of things you think you can do to help lessen the problem in that area.
My mission.
Sorry?
I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat?
Right. Well, look, the whole point of this application is for you to demonstrate to us why, if we granted you the license, it wouldn't make matters worse in that area with all the problems that it's got.
The CCTV.
Yeah.
Challenge 25.
Right.
Training staff.
Okay.
I don't know.
Can I just come in? That's all right, Councillor.
Yeah, no, I was going to hand over, Chair.
Yeah. Can I just come in? We had references by our agent about training and training staff. How many people have you got working there now while you're not selling alcohol?
Sorry?
How many people work in the shop any one time while you're not selling alcohol? How many people?
2 people.
2 people? Yeah. And they're on shifts or they're constantly in the shop while it's open?
Yeah.
No, it's one or the other. Are they working mornings and then clocking off and then somebody else comes in, or are 2 people at any one time in the shop?
2 people.
2 people all day, or in the morning and the afternoon? How do you split them? That's what the chair wants to know.
Depend, depend, because when I work, for example, one is coming 6 hours and I'm with one of the girls. Depend of my program,
Right. Now, if you were to be granted this license, would there still be 2 people in the shop?
Yeah.
And you've taken, I think your agent said you've got the relevant licensing qualification, personal license holder. Yeah. When did you take that course?
The course in 2018. Yeah. The course, but the license I take it last year.
Right. Now you've talked to my colleague about CCTV. I understand from your agent that you've got a CIZ statement. I can't see that in our bundle. Where is the CIZ statement? Because
can I help you there, Chair?
Sorry, I'm asking your applicant. I'm asking your client. because it's relevant to the questioning, I think, that my colleague, Councillor Murphy, said. Where is this CIZ statement that your agent said you'd produced?
Yeah.
Where is this statement?
It's on the application.
Well, can you point me to a page that might be helpful? Because I couldn't find anything pertaining to this statement.
Page 55, Chair, under box A, general, it says CIZ statement.
Thank you.
I had to interject there. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, you're being helpful. Sorry, but we need to concentrate, Graham, as you know, on questions to the applicant, because that's a very, that's what's being, highlighted by the representation. So if you see on that relevant page, and Graham's been very helpful directing to me because I couldn't find it, the premise is located in a CIZ. We understand that the shop has never previously been licensed, so we get that. The shop is a small outlet specializing primarily in Romanian foodstuff and other products. But you get my point that I've got a Romanian shop at the end of one of my roads in the area I represent. You don't just serve Romanian customers.
I didn't understand.
What customers do you serve?
They sell Romanian foodstuffs and other products, but because you're in Newham, you'd be likely to serve people who are not Romanian.
Yeah, it's coming.
If you had alcohol, do you see where I'm coming from here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I don't.
Can you hear me? Sorry, have I gone off again?
No, you're all right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't hear anybody again.
No, we're still here, Chair.
We can hear you, Chair.
Eastern Europe. Oh God, I've got a cough now.
I just have to keep taking my headphones in and out of a socket. Can you hear me all right? I couldn't hear any of the answer. I'm asking the applicant, you are a Romanian shop, it says on the CIZ statement. Are you aware that if you were to be granted a license, you might be selling people who are not Romanian?
Yeah.
And they might be, you referred to he being a street drinker, it might be a woman who's had too much alcohol. You hold a personal license. While this is your first retail outlet, in other words, your first shop, you also live in a vicinity and we're fully aware of the problems arising. The applicant has requested moderate hours and robust conditions, which are based on London Borough of Newham models. Anyway, to promote licensing objectives. We've already asked about that. And to prevent any increase in negative cumulative impact. What do you understand by a negative cumulative impact on an area?
Negative. Negative.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, we're just giving the example.
Chair, I think it is something with the word understanding for her because
I'm chairing the meeting. Sorry, I'm very aware of what's happening here. I'm asking the question, please. Can I get an answer, please? Negative cumulative impact. Okay, so thank you, Sugar. I agree with you, but I just need that on record that we didn't get an answer there. We also then have to prevent an increase in negative cumulative impact. The conditions proposed we submit will assist in addressing the widespread problems of street drinking, which we've talked about. what do you understand by antisocial behaviour in the area? Because we had that both in the police and from the licensing team. Can you just give us an example of what you might have seen since you've had this premises for 4 years of people being antisocial?
Yeah. They can shouting on the street. They can broken window. They can damage cars. No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Shouting.
Yeah. Now the last one I'm gonna, and then I'll hand over to my colleague Suga, to submit that in this statement it says we submit that the grant, if we so gave you the license to sell alcohol, will not lead to any increase in the negative cumulative impact in the COS and will ensure that the full licensing objectives are fully promoted. Your agent said to us that there's obviously, you've run this premises, there's no evidence of wrongdoing. My colleagues are all very fair to say that, we don't associate any of this antisocial behavior or whatever. But we're aware that can you still hear me? It keeps saying it's default position. Sorry, I don't know what, it keeps flashing up that people can't hear me and it's gone to mute. That it's a one-stop shop and people want alcohol. So have people been coming into the shop predominantly, say, from the Romanian community, which is well represented in the area, and requesting why aren't you selling alcohol? Have you had a request from your customers that they'd like alcohol?
I didn't understand your question. Can you?
I can't hear you.
I'll have to.
I still can't hear anybody again. I can't hear anybody.
Right.
I'm going to abandon this meeting in a minute if I keep going off. I can't hear anything.
The chair wants to know if you've had customers asking about alcohol, why you're not selling it.
Why I don't sell?
Yeah.
I can hear now again. I don't know why it keeps going off. I have to keep checking. I know this is getting very boring. I'm sorry, Christina. I can't hear anything. Can you repeat that answer? I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Did you get the question all right?
I've repeated it to her, Chair, yes.
Sorry, because I couldn't hear any response. So I'm afraid you're going to have to say it all again because my headphones keep playing up and I can't hear you without the headphones. I've tried that method. So can you repeat your answer to me? Sorry.
I don't sell alcohol if they're already drunk. If no.
The chair asked you. The question is, and if you won't mind me repeating because of the technical difficulties, have you had customers come in and ask why you don't sell alcohol?
Okay, yeah.
So I'm just assuming, because we've had people coming before us before, Christina, say, I want to sell alcohol because, I've got a customer base. They come in. Your agent said it was going to be a one-stop shop, so people want convenient shopping. They don't want to go here for alcohol, there for vegetables, there for toiletries or whatever. So have you had customers requesting since you've opened to sell alcohol?
Yeah, I have every day. They ask me for.
And why do you think we've mentioned the 4 cans, why do you think that we specify that you shouldn't be selling strong East European beers and lagers? In other words, why would we say that it should be no more than what we have in Britain called the ABV of 6%?
Because of the street drinking, they will not drink on the street.
Right.
And on the public space.
And why do you think we'd like the condition about bottle marking then? Where you have to keep labeling up with a sticky thing or whatever.
With my name on the bottle.
Yep.
Because, for example, if the police catch somebody who have a bottle with beer on the street, then they can tell it's from my shop. But I can demonstrate with that sticky. It's not from my shop.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Councillor Suga, any questions at this point? Can you hear me, Suga? Sorry, I keep checking everybody can hear me.
No worries, Chair. I can hear you. I'm perfectly fine. I'm listening.
Yeah.
And
Do you have any questions to the applicant at the moment?
Chair, I'm perfectly okay with the Graham Hawkins and the applicant's explanation in this regard. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. So I think we'll hand back then to the if that's okay, Councillor Murphy. You finished questions up at the moment?
Yes, Chair.
Can we hand back then to the people who've made representations? John, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, just a couple. You
Or
stated,
their agent, sorry to interrupt, applicant or
yeah,
agent.
this is for the applicant. You stated earlier that you've got a refusal book. What information would you record in that refusal book?
On the refusal book, incident.
No, what information would you record in the refusal book? Why would you use the refusal book?
I don't know how to explain. All crime report.
No, if John doesn't mind, I'll explain to you. What Mr. Chiswick's asking you is, you've got a refusals book.
Yeah.
What are you going to write in the refusals book?
Any complaint, any incident, any refusal.
That's what Mr. Chiswick's asking you. What are you going to write about the refusal? What are you going to tell the officers?
What I write in the refusal?
Yes.
The date, the time, the incident. Like this?
Because the rest will be on CCTV.
Okay, and I've got one other thing. If members are minded to grant the licence, today, would you be willing to have one additional condition imposed that states that all staff should be trained on the permitted hours and the conditions attached to the licence, and for that to be recorded in the training records?
Mr. Chiswick, do you mind if I just repeat that to her?
I can repeat it.
Would you please? Yes.
Yeah, so if members are minded to grant the licence today, would you be willing to have one additional condition imposed that states all staff shall be trained on the permitted hours and the conditions attached to the licence, and that should be recorded in the training records?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll include that, and I will include that in the training session she's going to have in the next few days.
Thank you. I've got nothing further.
Connell, anything?
Thank you.
Can you hear us, Connell? Sorry. I was telling you off about being on mute. I've had a reverse. I keep not hearing people. Can you hear me, Connell?
I can, Chair, yes.
Right. Now, let's hope that this is going to work, because I keep being cut off. But anyway, do you have a question to the applicant or agent?
Just a couple of quick questions. The hours for the premises are modest, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. How much time will the applicant actually be at the shop? Because it is 14 hours. It is, in total, it is quite a long time. So how much time will she be there?
Christina, how many hours would you be on any one day in the shop?
I can be like 8 hours, 10 hours, depend.
Right.
Connell, do you have
Okay,
any
thank you.
further?
Yeah, just one other quick question. On page 73, condition number 4, regarding staff training, it mentions training in proxy sales. I would like to ask Christina what she understands.
Sorry, Connell, I'm on page 73 and that's a plan of the shop. Can we have a different page reference? I heard 73, but Connell, can you hear me?
That's on the agenda. It's page 73. I've got.
No, it may be a different one. So, what is the under the conditions they've offered up? Where is it? Sorry, what section?
It's in section. Oh, sorry. Protection of children from harm.
Yeah.
and it's the staff training. And it's down as number 4,
Yeah.
where he details what the training will include, and it includes proxy sales. And I'd like to ask Christina what she understands by proxy sales.
Right. Christina, proxy sales. What are proxy sales?
On page 56.
Page 57 in my copy.
Oh,
Yes, it's 57.
57, sorry.
What with sound
You- you-
problems
somebody
and
else.
language problems and now
Got it?
reference, page reference. So, Christina, the question is, if I understand it correctly, if everybody, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Connell, that it's about the understanding of the word proxy sales, correct?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So, Christina, can you please answer what are proxy sales?
For example, if a children send somebody to buy alcohol, no, on his place, I have to refuse.
Connell, can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you. That's all.
Ken,
Yes, Chair.
are we all right to proceed to the next stage, do you feel? I
Yeah,
feel
it's
we are.
totally a matter for you, but
Yeah, but
can't see why
there's
not.
nothing that we've
No.
been arising in terms of, right, okay, in terms of procedures. So now we reach the point in the procedures to benefit for those watching as well as inside the hearing, as it were, even though we're on Zoom, for us to go to the again the procedures for these meetings. And what happens now is that we have a brief. I always underline it as far as I can, a brief summing up from the applicant or their agent on why this new license should be. And then we'll move to the next stage. So, Graham, I'm only going to give you about a couple of minutes. And if you go on, I will, you know me, I'll show body language, but also just directly interrupt. Over to you.
I don't want to get into trouble with you, Chair, today. Right, very simply, I think we've said all that I want to say. New operator, robust conditions, reasonable hours. Mr. Banyu's had the training. Just to reassure the panel that she will be getting, if you are minded to grant today, she will be getting another full training session with us. We will be offering her the mentoring service, and we will be training her staff, not just before. I won't let her sell alcohol, if you grant, before she's had that training. I accept the condition as very responsible that Mr. Chislett proposed about the permitted hours and conditions, etc. Happy to accept that, and I will go and explain that to Mr. Banyu if you grant today. But those measures are in place: the extra training, the ongoing mentoring, and that the fact we'll be doing the training and so on for the next year. So I would urge you to give her a chance and grant, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your brevity as always, Graham, and your cooperation with the chair. It's most outstanding. Anyway, moving swiftly on, item 5 is the deliberation. We are now, as members, that's the elected councillors who make the decision, are going to pass a resolution to deliberate in private, which is our custom and practice. Will exclude the present public. If we were to be meeting physically in East Ham Chamber, as is our custom, we would ask people to leave the room. In this case, it's electronic, so please don't do anything or press any buttons, but we'll go over to the Zoom clerk for instructions. The Zoom clerk.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. If you could accept the join button, and I'll put up a holding slide. And just remember that when you come out of the breakout room, you will be live again. So please be cautious about keeping your mics muted when you come back into the main session. So I've opened the rooms. Please select the join button.
Thank you very much. I do hope people can hear me. This is where I think everything goes a bit peculiar when we go back and forth. And
Yes, we're back. You're back in the room now, Chair.
And
we
can
can
everybody
hear
hear me? Can you please put your hands up, and can we get rid of this screen because I can't see everybody at the moment. I still can't see everybody. Connell's offline still.
Yeah, so I've
We've lost Colin for some reason.
Just waiting for 2 more people, Chair.
Oh, right, yeah, fine, yeah. As long as we can all hear still, yeah. Crucial, Christina, that you can hear us all throughout. So I've had difficulties with the microphone clicking me off again and things.
I think we're all here now, Chair.
Right, now, thank you for your patience, everybody. And can I thank you for the way you've conducted yourselves, particularly bearing in mind we've had problems, you know, starting the meeting with connection problems. I've had issues with connections and hearing people, so I hope I haven't come across too direct about that. It's just my frustration with the technology. But thanks very much for your cooperation. These meetings aren't easy, and I keep looking forward to the time when we can go back to the town hall or have blended meetings or something, because this is quite difficult to control. But thanks for the cooperation, everybody. The committee has made a decision, and I'll ask the clerk to read it out, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a summary decision. On the basis of all the information provided, written and oral, the subcommittee has decided to refuse the application. A full decision with reasons will be circulated with the aim of it reaching the parties within 5 working days.
And it just remains for me to say that the applicant and the responsible authorities may appeal against that decision to the Magistrates' Court within a period of 21 days. Thank you very much, everybody. This meeting of the Licensing 2003 Act Subcommittee, with the understanding that item 3 is deferred to a future date, is now